Is systemic racism real? Hi, it's Kelvin Smith here, and welcome to Creation Basics, where our goal is to make God's creation part of your everyday conversation. Now, today's question is systemic racism real? Well, headlines touting the prevalence of systemic racism that permeates Western culture continue to jam our news feeds and social media feeds around the world. We see these hot takes and counter arguments that are shot back and forth, and the average person is just sitting back on the sidelines. It's like a fan at a ping pong championship, trying to figure out who's winning in all this blur of activity. So we see, of course, our politicians, they mostly play hot potato with the issue, desperately trying to direct people's attention away from themselves to someone else, as kind of assuring everyone that they agree with whatever stance will, of course, keep them in popular in the public opinion polls. And even many evangelical leaders are weighing in. But sometimes they just have these emotive messages that seem more like opportunistic virtue signaling in an attempt to be relevant rather than providing any real answers. Now, with the seemingly never-ending saga of racial crimes being perpetrated against so-called different races of all kinds, could it be that there is truly a systemic racism being taught to people that's influencing people at a subconscious level? I mean, whether consciously aware of it or not, are people being programmed to view people that look differently than they do as inferior? And are we as Christians susceptible as well to being influenced to think that way? Well, let's think this through. Underneath it all, barely noticed, like a kind of a virus of the mind, is a hidden root of teaching of racism at a systemic level. Because for several generations now, the vast majority of young people in the West have been educated in state-run schools that teach the concept of humanistic naturalism as a foundational tenet. Now, to understand what that means, we just need to examine the Humanist Manifesto to understand their starting premises more fully. Here's what they say. Religious humanists regard the universe as self-existing and not created. Humanism believes that man is part of nature and that he emerged as the result of a continuous process. As non-theists, we begin with humans, not God, nature, not deity. Now, to emphasize how this is taught in schools, in 1995, the U.S. National Association of Biology Teachers stated the following: "The diversity of life on Earth is the outcome of evolution, an unsupervised, impersonal, unpredictable, and natural process of temporal descent." Now, do you see any differentiation with a real difference between these two declarations? One is supposed to be a philosophical creed, while the other is apparently a scientific definition. But unsupervised would mean there's no creator God. Impersonal would mean that life has no special meaning. Unpredictable means we're the product of blind chance, and of course, natural process means processes inherent in matter. So the conclusions of both of these statements are one in the same, which means that the vast majority of young, impressionable minds in the West, including children from Christian homes, are being programmed systemically with atheistic naturalism from their kindergarten years all the way through to university, and the practice of which comes through the teaching of the story of evolution, which would of course apply to human evolution as well. You see, racism requires the concept of different races existing to justify the belief that your own race is superior to another. The idea of superiority of one race over another would require some sort of scale to judge the races against to decide who is more or less advanced than other people. So the story of evolution provides just such a set of metrics. I mean, a simple common example is the classic ape-to-man diagram, so popular in textbooks and t-shirts, which is imprinted into the minds of millions of students every year. It almost always depicts dark-skinned, hairy apes turning into Caucasians over millions of years. And so it provides a simple visual concept illustrating that the less melanin you have in your skin, the more advanced you are. The idea is simple to grasp. We're just evolved animals, and some races are more advanced than others. And although this is supposedly scientific, it's racist to its core. The question of unconscious bias is a big focus today. Whether people fully embrace and adopt it or not, there is a racist ideology being taught systemically all over the world now. the teaching of human evolution. Perhaps this racist programming is playing itself out into the subconscious of millions of people that have been exposed to evolutionary teaching. Until people come to grips with the reality that there's only one race, the human race, there will always be racial tensions. And Christians shouldn't automatically assume that they're immune if they buy into these evolutionary ideas. So, is systemic racism real? Yes, but not what most people think. Hey folks, Calvin here. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, share the content, click the button, blah, blah, blah. I know, you've heard it so often, it's just annoying. But here's the thing. If you're enjoying this content and want other people to benefit from it as well, kind of think of it as donating to our Answers in Genesis Canada advertising campaign without having to spend a dime. We want to be good stewards of your support. And of course, advertising is very expensive. But with the algorithms set up the way they are, it's kind of like getting these platforms that are often quite unfriendly to Christian content to promote gospel outreach for free. And if you've been blessed by this content, understand the importance of biblical authority, and have the means, please consider giving a one-time gift or becoming one of our monthly supporters by clicking the link below. Stay blessed.